Here's what nobody tells you before you drop 20 grand on a zero turn. The mower that looks best on the showroom floor is rarely the one your business actually needs. The one you need is the one that fires up at 6 in the morning on the third straight day of wet grass with 8 yards to cut before noon and no time for the dealer. That's what trust really means out here. Not the spec sticker, not the paint. It's the machine that quietly keeps making you money season after season and never leaves a crew standing around on the clock. So I went looking for the 7 commercial zero turns landscapers actually trust in 2026. Straight up, these aren't the only good mowers out there, and I left some solid ones off on purpose. But these 7? These are the ones I'd put my own name behind. Here's the part that trips people up. A few of them run the same engine, same name on the valve cover, but what's bolted underneath is worlds apart. And one of these backs its drive system for 3,000 hours, a number most owners don't even know exists. We'll get there. We're counting up to number 1, and we're starting with a machine that does almost everything right and still barely made the list. At number 7, the Gravely ProTurn 600. And I want to start here for a reason, because this is the machine a lot of guys walk right past on the lot. Gravely doesn't shout the way some brands do, but among working crews, it's carried a quiet, solid reputation for years. The kind you earn by showing up and getting the job done, not by winning the spec sheet argument. Make no mistake though, this is a true commercial mower built for daily, high-hour use. It is not a homeowner's machine dressed up in professional paint. Up top, you've got a Kawasaki FX1000, putting out as much as 38.5 horsepower, with the kind of heavy-duty commercial air filtration that keeps dust out of the engine on the dry, dirty days that chew up lesser machines. All of that sits on an automotive-style tubular steel frame that's built to take force from any direction and rides with a low center of gravity, so the machine stays planted and confident when the ground starts to tilt under you on a slope. For cutting, the ProTurn 600 runs Gravely's X-Factor 3 deck, a thick, 7-gauge fabricated shell with reinforced spindle mounts and a sloped front end that lifts the grass early for a cleaner cut. You can spec it in 52, 60, or 72 inches, so you can size it to your properties and your workload. And here's the number that genuinely surprises people. Depending on configuration, this thing tops out around 15 miles an hour. On this entire list, only one machine is faster. On big, open, flat turf, that speed turns straight into more acres cut per day. And more acres per day is more money per day. But here's the honest part. Speed isn't what earns trust in this category. What earns trust is what happens when the schedule's tight, the grass is thick and wet, and the machine just has to keep going. And that's exactly where Gravely has built its name. The ProTurn 600 is backed by a nationwide network of independent servicing dealers. Not a big box checkout counter, but real shops with trained techs who work on this equipment every single day. So when you need a part or a repair, you're not gambling. For a commercial crew, that access is the difference between a couple of hours of downtime and a full day of lost income with the whole crew standing around. Then there's the warranty, and this tells you how Gravely sees its own machine. You're getting a 5-year, 1,500-hour commercial warranty with no hour limit at all for the first 2 years, plus a limited lifetime warranty on the frame and the deck shell. That's not light-duty coverage. That's a company putting its money on the line while your crew beats on the thing day after day, season after season. And to keep you out cutting longer, it carries a 12.7-gallon fuel tank, so there are fewer trips back to the trailer on a long route. Now, where it sits at 7 instead of higher comes down to the drivetrain and the ride. Under the chassis, the ProTurn 600 uses Parker HTG transaxles. These are dependable, serviceable hydraulic units. You can change the oil and the filter and keep them healthy through high-hour seasons, which is exactly what a commercial buyer needs. But they're integrated transaxles, and the heaviest hitters further up this list step up to separate pumps and wheel motors you can service and rebuild piece by piece. The suspension's the same story. It gives you a comfortable, well-balanced ride that takes the edge off a long day, but it's not the most advanced system in the category. This is a machine that does a whole lot of things well and nothing flashy. For a crew that wants low-risk, real commercial bones and a dealer who answers the phone, that's exactly the bet you want to make. For others, it's the reason it lands at number 7. At number 6, the Wright ZXT. And this is the machine I told you most people outside the trade never talk about, but the crews who run it swear by it. Wright didn't build the ZXT to win a showroom. They built it expressly for landscape professionals, and that shows up in every decision on this machine. It's the one you reach for when the job gets nasty. Steep retention ponds, drainage channels, roadside embankments, the kind of broken, sloped ground that makes other mowers feel sketchy under you. Traction and stability are the whole point here, and that's where it makes its money. Underneath, the ZXT runs a true separated commercial drive. Dual hydro gear 16 cubic centimeter pumps feeding separate 18 cubic inch wheel motors. That's the heavy-duty setup the premium machines use. Instead of one sealed unit doing everything, you've got individual components built for high-hour abuse and the kind of torque you need to claw up a wet bank without losing your footing. Power gets to the ground through big 26-inch rear drive tires that bite into uneven terrain and keep you in control when the property fights back. Wright even offers airless tweel and dual wheel options if your job sites demand even more traction and flotation. Up front, the AeroCore cutting deck comes in 52, 61, and 72 inches, built from heavy 7-gauge steel and hung on commercial-duty spindle assemblies made to take the punishment of daily professional use while still throwing the clean-cut landscapers expect. For power, you're choosing between a commercial Kawasaki FX series engine and a Vanguard Big Block EFI, with output reaching up to 40 horsepower depending on configuration. And to keep you cutting instead of fueling, it carries a huge 15.5-gallon tank, one of the biggest on this entire list, so you spend your hours on grass, not standing at the pump. But here's the detail that actually earns this machine its trust, and it's the part the spec sticker won't sell you on: uptime. The ZXT is engineered to run 500 hours between oil changes and 1,000 hours on the hydraulic oil. Think about what that means for a working crew. Fewer trips to the bench, fewer mornings lost to maintenance, more days where the machine just starts and goes. In this business, a mower that keeps running is a mower that keeps earning, and Wright built this one to keep running. Now the honest trade-off, because every machine has one. The ZXT tops out around 13 miles an hour, and while it does come with a suspension seat, this design leans hard into durability, productivity, and control rather than giving you the softest ride in the category. On rough ground over a long shift, you'll feel more of the terrain than you would on a fully suspended platform. But plenty of operators take that deal happily, because what they're buying is a machine that handles brutal conditions day after day without flinching. So that's the specialist's pick, the machine for when the ground gets ugly. The next one is the complete opposite. It's not built for one hard job. It's built to run an entire fleet, day after day, without ever giving you a reason to think about it. At number 5, the Toro Z-Master 6000. If the Wright is the specialist, this is the fleet machine. When you're running multiple crews on tight schedules and depending on equipment every single day, the mower that earns its place isn't the one with the loudest numbers. It's the one that starts every morning, cuts the same all day, and keeps downtime close to zero. That's the Z-Master 6000's whole identity. It's built on Toro's Turbo Force cutting deck, a 5.5-inch deep, heavy-gauge steel deck with heat-treated blades and a patented adjustable discharge baffle. That baffle is a genuinely useful touch. Open it up in thick, demanding conditions to free up power and speed, close it down in lighter grass to cut clippings finer and throw them harder. The deck comes in the sizes a commercial crew actually needs, and it's built to take repeated daily mowing across clean turf and rough job sites without losing its shape. The drivetrain is where Toro got smart. Instead of running hydraulic hoses that can chafe, kink, or blow on a hot afternoon, the Z-Master 6000 uses a unitized pump-and-wheel motor design, proven commercial components with the hoses and leak points engineered right out. Fewer failure points means one fewer way to lose a day. Ground speed runs up to 12 miles an hour, and it carries a 12-gallon fuel tank for long routes between fill-ups. For power, you've got real commercial options, including a Kawasaki FX and a 37-horse Vanguard Big Block EFI. That Vanguard pairs with Oil Guard, which stretches oil change intervals out to 500 hours using a dry sump system and a big external reservoir. Less time on the bench, more time cutting. And up top, the MyRide system suspends the entire operator platform on 3D isolation mounts, not just the seat, so the bumps and vibration get absorbed before they ever reach you. Across a 10-hour day, that's the difference between a fresh operator and a beat-up one. But here's the part most videos miss, and it's the real reason fleet operators trust this machine. Under that red paint, Toro shares a massive amount of engineering and componentry with Exmark, so you're buying into a premier industrial standard, not a budget shortcut. And no one's dealer and parts network runs deeper or wider than Toro's, which for a business is the entire ballgame. Parts on the shelf, techs who know the machine, and a repair handled in hours instead of days. Toro even builds in Horizon 360 business management software to track machine hours and locations across your whole crew. Toro backs the Z-Master 6000 with commercial warranty coverage built for professional, high-hour use. So that's dependability and support taken to the extreme. But the next machine makes a different argument entirely, that comfort isn't a luxury at all. It's a productivity tool that pays you back by the hour. And number 4, the Ferris ISX 3300. Most mowers treat comfort as an afterthought, a thicker seat cushion, and call it a day. Ferris treats it as a performance system, and that's the whole reason this machine exists. The ISX 3300 is built around one core advantage: holding speed, control, and cut quality over rough ground, exactly where rigid frame zero turns start to bounce, scalp, and lose their stripe. The heart of it is the patented four-front suspension system. Up front, 4 upper and lower control rods, paired with mower-specific shocks, let each wheel trace the terrain on its own, keeping the casters planted through the full range of travel. At the rear, a suspended drive setup works with the chassis to keep the tires in contact and the machine stable when the ground turns ugly. The payoff isn't just a softer ride, it's a more controlled cutting platform. On bumpy commercial properties, that bouncing is what wrecks your finish, and the ISX 3300 is engineered to kill it, so your crew keeps laying clean stripes even when conditions are far from ideal. Underneath, it runs dual commercial Hydrogear ZT5400 powertrain transaxles with 9-inch cooling fans built to repel debris and shed heat on long, hot days. The heavy-duty drive these high-hour machines demand. It rolls on 26-inch turf-friendly rear tires for stability and traction, and it'll travel up to 12 miles an hour. For cutting, you've got the 2-belt ICD Plus deck in 60 or 72 inches, spun by Hercules 2 spindles. 10-inch cast iron housings with industrial double-row angular contact bearings, the kind of heavy hardware built to absorb impact and run for years. For power, the standout is the 40-horse Vanguard Big Block EFI ETC with Oil Guard, a fuel-injected engine with electronic throttle control that holds blade tip speed steady when you hit thick, dense, wet grass. And that Oil Guard system stretches oil changes out to a 500-hour interval, which is real downtime saved over a season. There's also a Kawasaki FX1000 EFI option. It carries 11 gallons of fuel across dual tanks for long sessions between stops. But where the ISX 3300 truly earns its keep is in operator endurance. Less vibration and more stability mean less fatigue. And a fresh operator at the end of a long shift simply cuts better and works faster than a beat-up one. Over a full day, that comfort turns directly into productivity. And that's why it shows up in serious commercial fleets. Now, the honest trade-off, and Ferris is upfront about it. All that suspension means more moving parts, more shocks, more control rods and bushings to inspect and maintain than a simple rigid frame. Comfort comes with a maintenance bill. And worth knowing on the warranty, the balance of the machine is covered for 4 years or 500 hours, whichever comes first, with the engine on its own 3-year coverage. So a hard-running crew will reach that hour cap before the calendar runs out. Read the fine print and plan for it. So that's comfort as a moneymaker. The next machine throws comfort out the window and chases one thing instead. At number 3, the Hustler Hyperdrive. Now remember that 3,000 hour number I dropped on you at the very start? This is the machine. So let me explain why it matters, because it's one of the strongest trust signals on this entire list. The Hyperdrive is built around one obsession, covering huge ground fast without cooking the drivetrain in the heat. That's the real enemy on a long commercial day: sustained hours, high temperatures, and a hydraulic system slowly losing its edge as it bakes. Hustler attacked that head-on with its exclusive Hyperdrive system. Industrial Danfoss DDC 20 pumps paired with Parker T G280 wheel motors fed by a 3-gallon reservoir with a dedicated oil cooler and a hot oil shuttle to keep temperatures in check. And here's the proof they stand behind it. Hustler backs that drive system with a 5-year, 3,000-hour pump and motor warranty. In an industry where most coverage is measured in the hundreds of hours, 3,000 is almost unheard of. That number is the clearest signal you'll ever get that a company trusts its own hardware, because warranties are where marketing stops and money starts. On top sits the VX4 deck, fabricated 7-gauge steel with reinforced spindle mount plates, engineered to pull extreme vacuum so it moves more grass and holds cut quality even when you're flying. And flying is the word. This thing runs up to 16 miles an hour, the fastest machine on this entire list. On a big open property, an industrial site, a sports complex, acres of commercial turf, that speed translates directly into more done per hour, and more per hour is more profit. Power comes from a Kawasaki FX1000 or an optional Vanguard Big Block EFI with oil guard and its 500-hour oil intervals, pulling from 2 6-gallon tanks for 12 gallons total. The whole machine is built tough underneath too, with heavy 1.5 by 3-inch frame rails using thicker wall steel than a lot of competitors, and it's all backed by a 5-year, 1,200-hour limited warranty with no hour cap for the first 2 years. Now, the honest trade-off, because this machine is a specialist. The Hyperdrive is tuned for open area speed, so at 16 miles an hour over rough ground, you're going to feel the terrain. It rides on a suspension seat, not a suspended frame. And its scale and pace make it a poor fit for tight, gated residential lots where you're constantly trimming around obstacles. This is a machine that wants room to stretch its legs. Give it open acreage and it'll out-earn almost anything here. Box it into small, fiddly yards and you're fighting it. So that's the toughest drivetrain promise on the list, locked behind 3,000 hours of coverage. At number 2, the Exmark Lazer Z. And here's the stat that earns this spot before I say another word. By Exmark's own count, more landscape professionals have run the Lazer Z than any other zero-turn on the market, and they've held that position for more than 30 years. When a machine is that deep into the trade for that long, that's not marketing, that's a verdict handed down by the people who mow for a living. What Exmark obsesses over isn't top speed or a flashy spec, it's the cut under real working conditions. The Lazer Z is built around the fabricated Ultra Cut Series 6 deck, offered from 52 inches all the way up to a massive 96-inch flex wing for wide open ground. Instead of chasing raw aggression, the whole system is engineered around airflow, an offset blade design and a tuned baffle setup that stands the grass up before the blade ever touches it, then distributes the clippings evenly for a clean, professional finish without clumping, even as turf conditions change through the day. On a high-end account where a customer notices one stray strip, that finish is the line between keeping the contract and losing it. Underneath, Exmark does something genuinely smart for reliability. The drive is a pair of exclusive Parker unitized pump and wheel motor units, an integrated design with no hydraulic hoses at all. No hoses means nothing to chafe, kink, or blow out on a hot afternoon, which strips out a whole category of leak points and failures in a fleet environment where downtime costs more than anything. And the latest X Series got easier to wrench on too, so service goes faster when it's needed. For power, you're choosing from commercial EFI big blocks, Kawasaki, Kohler, and Vanguard, with advanced electronic governors that hold blade performance steady the instant you hit thick or damp grass. Exmark says the EFI setup runs significantly more efficiently than carbureted equivalents, and that's real fuel money staying in the business across a season. It pulls from a 12-gallon fuel capacity for long commercial cycles, and ground speed lands around 11.5 miles an hour. So this isn't the rocket of the group, it's the surgeon. Precise, consistent, repeatable, day after day. Now the honest trade-off, and its ride character. While upgraded suspension seat options are available, the Lazer Z is still a rigid commercial platform built on a heavy-duty tubular steel frame, built that way on purpose for durability and long service life. The flip side is that on rough, rutted ground over a long shift, you'll feel more of the terrain than you would on a fully suspended machine like the Ferris. The Scag Turf Tiger 2. This is the machine that built its reputation the old-fashioned way. Not with a flashy number or a clever gimmick, but by simply refusing to die. Ask a crew of veteran cutters which mower they'd trust to still be running 10 years from now, and this name comes up again and again. That's why it sits at the top of a trust list. Start with the bones, because that's the whole philosophy here. The Turf Tiger 2 is built on a heavy, double-tube steel frame with a wide stance and an extra low center of gravity, so it feels planted and solid on unpredictable terrain instead of nervous. Scag didn't chase lightweight design trends, they chased strength, and you feel it the moment you sit on one. At the core of the cut is Scag's Velocity Plus deck, the one they call the envy of the industry. It's built from steel of varying thicknesses for strength exactly where it's needed, including a nearly half-inch thick top plate to support the spindles. And here's a detail that genuinely sets it apart. Instead of a long drive belt that can slip and wear, a drive shaft connects the engine straight to the deck. Fewer belts to throw, more reliability, and a wider cutting height range. The spindles are Scag's ultra-tough cast iron units with tapered roller bearings and a top-mounted grease fitting with a relief valve, so you can maintain them without over-greasing. Real, serviceable, built-to-last hardware. The drive system is the heavy commercial setup we keep coming back to as the gold standard. Dual 16 cubic centimeter hydro gear pumps feeding separate Parker 18 cubic inch wheel motors with pump shock valves and a standard auxiliary oil cooler to keep temperatures down and extend system life. Top speed runs up to 12 miles an hour, tuned for control and stability rather than pure racing. It carries a 12-gallon fuel tank low in the chassis for long days and better balance. And nobody on this list gives you more ways to power it. You can spec a Kawasaki, a Kohler EFI, a Vanguard Big Block EFI, or, if you want to drop your fuel cost per hour on a high-hour fleet, a 25-horse Kubota diesel. That range alone tells you who this machine is built for. Serious operators who run hard and plan to keep the machine for the long haul. Now, the honest trade-off, because even the king has one. The Turf Tiger 2 is big, heavy, and firm by design. All that mass and rigidity is exactly what makes it so stable and so durable, but it makes it less forgiving on soft, delicate, or tight ground than a lighter machine. So there's your 7, and notice they're not even chasing the same job. The Scag Turf Tiger 2 simply refuses to quit. The Exmark Lazer Z is the proven all-rounder that more pros run than anything else. The Hustler Hyperdrive is the open acreage workhorse with that 3,000-hour drive. The Ferris ISX 3300 keeps your crew sharp when the ground turns rough. The Toro Z-Master 6000 is the fleet machine built on uptime and support. The Wright ZXT is the specialist for steep, brutal properties. And the Gravely ProTurn 600 is real commercial value with a dealer who actually picks up the phone. Here's the truth. There's no single best mower here, and anyone who says otherwise is selling something. The smoothest ride won't outcut the toughest deck. The fastest machine won't survive abuse like the heaviest one will. Every mower on this list will make you money. The only mistake is picking the wrong one for the work you actually do, the ground you actually cut, and the dealer who's actually near you. So before you spend $1, get honest about your day. How big are the properties? How rough is the ground? How hard will you run it? And who fixes it when it breaks? Match the machine to that, not to the paint. Now I want to hear from you. What are you running this season? And what's the one mower you'd trust enough to bet a full workday on? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this saved you from a $20,000 mistake, subscribe, because the next breakdown's already on your screen.